You've cried before, maybe recently, maybe over something that made complete sense, like losing someone you loved, maybe over something that made no sense at all, like a commercial, or a song you've heard 100 times, or a dog in a movie that you knew was going to be fine. And in that moment, while tears were running down your face, some part of your brain was probably asking the same question. Why is this happening? Why does a human body respond to emotion by leaking fluid from the eyes? No other animal does this, not in the way we do. A dog doesn't cry when it's sad. A chimpanzee doesn't tear up at a funeral. Emotional tears are uniquely, specifically, almost bizarrely human. And the reason why reveals something profound about what we are and how we survived. Let's start with what tears actually are. Your eyes produce three types of tears: basal tears, which coat your eyes constantly to keep them from drying out; reflex tears, which flush out irritants like smoke or dust; and emotional tears. That third type is the strange one, because emotional tears have a completely different chemical composition than the other two. They contain higher levels of stress hormones, including cortisol, and the natural painkiller called leucinenkephalin. In other words, when you cry emotionally, your body is literally flushing stress chemicals out through your eyes. Crying is not just an expression of emotion, it is a biological release valve. But that still doesn't explain why it evolved in the first place. For that, we need to go back. Around 2 million years ago, early humans were living in small, highly dependent social groups. Survival wasn't individual, it was collective. You needed others to hunt, to protect children, to care for the sick and injured. In that world, communicating distress clearly and honestly was a matter of life and death. The problem is that distress can be faked, vocalizations can be performed, facial expressions can be controlled, but tears are almost impossible to fake on command. And this is the key insight. Tears evolved as an honest signal. When you see someone crying, your brain instantly registers something that cannot easily be manufactured: genuine emotional distress. It bypasses your skepticism. It triggers empathy almost involuntarily. Research by Dr. Ad Vingerhoets at Tilburg University found that people who cry in front of others receive significantly more social support than those who don't. The tears themselves are doing social work. They are communicating need in a way that words alone cannot. And here is where it gets even more fascinating. Humans are the only animals with whites in their eyes, called sclera. Every other primate has dark eyes that make it harder to track where they're looking. But humans evolved visible whites, which means you can see exactly where someone's gaze is directed. And when tears flow, they create visible contrast against those whites, making emotional display even more obvious, even more readable from a distance. Your eyes were built to be read, and tears were built to be seen. But crying doesn't just signal to others, it also does something inside you. Studies show that emotional crying activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your body responsible for rest and recovery. Your heart rate slows, your breathing deepens, the stress hormones that spiked during emotional distress begin to clear. This is why people say they feel better after a good cry. Not because the problem is solved, because the body has physically processed and released the emotional load. Crying is self-regulation. It is your nervous system hitting a reset button. And then there is the type of crying that confuses people most: tears of joy. Tears at a wedding, at a graduation, when someone you love comes home after a long time away. Why would positive emotion produce the same response as grief? Researchers believe this happens because the brain struggles to process extreme emotional intensity, whether it is positive or negative. When feelings become too large to contain, the body defaults to its release mechanism. The tears aren't about sadness, they're about overflow, your emotional system hitting its upper limit and finding the only exit available. So the next time your eyes fill up without warning, over a film, over a memory, over something you can't even fully explain, remember what is actually happening. Your body is doing something ancient and precise. It is releasing stress chemicals. It is signaling to the people around you that you need support. It is regulating your nervous system back toward calm, and it is doing all of this in a way that no other creature on Earth can replicate. Humans cry because we are built for each other. We cry because we cannot hide what we feel, and somewhere in our evolutionary history, that inability to hide became one of our greatest strengths.